Hey there team, welcome back to the channel and welcome to my overview of Karate Survivor. Oh my god, what is this? Well look, let's get the spiel out of the way. Team, if you're not across it, I do overviews on this channel. I have a look at the first 2 hours of a game. That's the Steam refund window. Steam reckons you can make up your mind about whether you want to keep a game or not in that time. And broadly speaking, I would agree and say generally as a rule, 20 hours in, you're not going to change your mind about how you felt 2 hours in. So it's a short punchy video, broad strokes info, keep it around 10 minutes and then you can make up your mind on your own. So, first, this is great, actually. It kind of just ate up my time and I had to put it down at the end of the 2 hours. So that's a good sign. This is very much Vampire Survivors like part of that new wave of emergent, casual, incremental idle type roguelike run base. You know, fairly light, good palate cleanser, short and punchy. Obviously this has a karate splash of paint. It goes deeper than that actually. It's got some very interesting, unique mechanics, specifically in the way that your dude does his sort of attacks. Again, I think Vampire Survivors is a good touchstone. Most people should know about that, and if you haven't played it, it's like $1. Give it a go. At least see what the zeitgeist is all about. You might fall in love. But with this, it's all very much karate, kung fu, bloody kicks and punches and roundhouse kicks and all that sort of stuff. And there's a lot of them and they're really beautifully animated. I don't know how else to describe it. I don't think too much about animation. It's obviously not rotoscoping or anything like that, but they've put a lot of detail into the individual frames. And if you do take the time to focus on your dude's animation, which you're not really going to do most of the time, other than if you're, I don't know, doing an overview for a video game, you can see that attention to detail. It's really quite wonderful. So you will just start out with a little jab, a little punch. I'm using my hands, I'm air punching at the moment. And as you fight dudes, they drop money, you take the money, that goes into your XP bar, and then you'll get a level up with 3 card choices. As far as the general overarching loot goes, it's very familiar to what you're probably familiar with. And while you'll get, you know, upgrade luck, upgrade XP gain, plus 10% punch damage or range, the general fare, you will also get extra moves. And at the moment of me playing it, they come in red and blue variety, but I'm pretty sure there will be more colors going along. And so say you pick out a new red move and you've already got a red move in your action bar, you can see at the bottom, you'll be able to slot that into the combo chain, as it were. And so your dude essentially auto executes the run through, and it will get longer and longer as you add more moves into it. And there's a kind of cool elegance to those chained animations that I opened with, to the point where you'll end up having a full bar of, I don't know, it's probably about like 6 different moves that you can put together. And the color coding adds to the damage, like there's a multiplier, and you can also unlock more progression that's categorizes them numerically. There's almost a rudimentary playing hand component to it of trying to get like 1, 2, 3, 4 back to back to what you do to animate, you know, his punches and kicks and twirls. And it comes along actually, it works really well. And I think it's enough. I'm not expecting a genre like this to be reinvented with every iteration. These are only cheap little games, like I said, palate cleansers, and they know what they are. So this game's not trying to do anything particularly radical. While it's definitely an entry into this genre, it's not ripping anything off. It's got its own flavor and it executes it on it incredibly well. So the basics are familiar, as expected, as you would say, a genre trope. But yeah, these little animated combo chains that you execute on, and then you have a little green cooldown above your dude's head and he resets. So he auto fires the combo chain and then there'll be a couple of second cooldown before he fires it off again. So that on its own is pretty cool. But then you've got the environs. The first one's a supermarket. I've unlocked a bar. I think it's like a rooftop I've unlocked as well. I think there's 5 by the look of it. But even just the supermarket, there's enough going on to keep it engaged. Now, I'm not really necessarily going to take shots at Vampire Survivors. It wears the crown it earned. But if you could say there was a weaker part, it would probably be your interplay with the environment itself. Take the first level, for example. It's just a big green field. Now, I recognize that as you go along, there are items that you play towards and a larger strategy emerges. But in the moment-to-moment interacting with the background or terrain or whatever you'd even like to call it in this genre, it's pretty entry level. This is on the other end of the scale. Take the supermarket, for example. there will be different areas of the actual floor plan. Like there will be mini cafe break room areas which will have tables and chairs and bottles and plates and that sort of stuff. And if you walk your dude up next to some of these things, he will have like a rudimentary interaction. But this is also part of the meta progression as well. So as I recall, straight out of the gate, one of the only things you can really do is you can pick up throwables and he automatically just bloody launches it at the nearest dude. And it's cool. It's the stylistic approach to implementing gameplay that often is missed in something like a simulator. I joke about it a bit facetiously all the time. You know, wall painting simulator is not a fun kind of experience if you just make it one-to-one wall painting. You have to abstract the gameplay loop a bit. So I think others would maybe potentially have you like aim or skill shot or whatever. No, all you got to do is walk over near a bottle or a plate as the dudes are bearing down on you and you're sort of frantically scrabbling backwards and he's just picking up and throwing anything he can get his hands on. Then you can also get things like baseball bats, all these sort of weapons, which will create a unique area animation. It overrides your actual sequence bar that you've been building, but it's essentially got ammo. You'll only get a few hits in before it gets discarded. So you throw that in with, you know, learning the ropes your first run, let's say. There's a dynamism to that environmental interplay, which is something that I would say is not really commonly found in this genre. In fact, as a touchstone, harkening back to earlier in the year, it's still early access, but the Deep Rock Galactic, I think it's called Survivor, but their roguelike attempt at that, I put many hours into that and I really enjoyed it because, and I don't want to get off too track, but to illustrate my point, you know, you can go around and drill into the walls and do mining, and it ties back to the theme of the original game, the idea of mining while running from these alien bugs. And so that's a great example of thematic, dynamic, environmental interplay. And this thing does the same thing, obviously as a sort of homage to all the kung fu and karate movies that you would have watched growing up. And look, I'm not exactly an expert on specific move sets, but I recognize terms like roundhouse kick. So presumably some of these things are a bit more realistic. And some of the animations I've noticed, you know, you can get into like a sofa chair, like an armchair, and sort of spin around in it. And I was like, oh, I swear I've seen that in a Jackie Chan movie at some point. But yeah, as you unlock things, you have paid upgrades, which is your Vampire Survivors, you know, plus 10% permanent account damage or speed or whatever. This is expected. But the sort of sequential quest unlocks, you know, throw 10 items and that will unlock this new move set, is really interesting because even speaking for the supermarket, now you can start to like kick chairs that are in the break room and they become things that you can walk into and your dude will just launch them. So now you've got even more projectiles. You're going to last a bit longer. Things like vaulting over little counters as well. Your dude will start, you know, doing combat rolls over them. So I'm raving about this because normally you do not have, through the course of the leveling up, let's say, of these more bite-sized games, it's not much more than numbers on a stat sheet. And that's what I would say is the strongest part about this, is after each run, you kind of want to jump back in because you want to play around with how your dude's going to kind of get more move set out of the environment from leveling up. Like now I can go up to shopping trolleys and kick them if you walk into the side of them and he launches them into the enemies. Same as like stacks of supplies like water bottle pallets, stuff like that. You can kick them around. I've just unlocked the ability, there's some light environmental interaction, like there'll be some sort of areas, stalls set up for construction, and he can kick that and knock it down on dudes. You can vault into these sort of little safe rooms that'll have a chest to unlock and a heal, but it's a one and done, and then you fight your way back out of him. You couldn't do that before, but now he's got this vault mechanic. And also if I go up to, you know, freezers or door displays, you can swing the door open and smash dudes in their head. And so what started out was, oh, okay, I like this loop. I kind of like what they're doing with the combo chain karate moves, is now, when I go back into a run after this, is now actually like very involved. There's a lot of different stuff I can interact with in the environment, and you sort of start picking out your little critical path a little bit better than, again, let's say, vampire survivors just walking around in the green grass. Anyway, I feel like I've covered what needs to be said here. This is really cool, and you should potentially check it out if you're looking for a palate cleanser. If you're a bit of an enthusiast for these sort of games, I would say this is as good as any to jump in. The soundtrack and all the art is just really quite wonderful. Lots of varied enemies, and there's a lot of work in here. And I don't know if I even mentioned it, but the main reason I even gave it a go is because it's published and developed by Alloa, who I'm quickly becoming a bit fond of. They published Technotopia, which I really enjoyed. We had a look at the other day. And Wall World, I'm not actually sure if this made it onto the channel, but I enjoyed what little I played of that, and it was a bit of a blowout hit as well. So, you know, these guys as a publisher seem to be kicking goals, and I'm happy to support that. Anyway, check it out yourself. Otherwise, I might just leave it there for the time being, and I'll catch you guys on the next one.